Going alongside Brett Taveau, author of Unpacking Greatness, a Chiefs book you can find on Amazon. Brett, we're going to get to some details of 4 plays this week from the Chiefs. Things just not like they normally are with the Chiefs. And we're going to see that a lot of different examples of that against the Broncos in their loss.
For sure. And you and I were kind of texting back and forth as we were looking at the film and trying to figure out where to go this week. And just a lot of examples of the Chiefs, really good players not doing things that they normally do to win games.
Yeah, not expected to. I mean, some of these guys, Mahomes, Kelce, Joe Thuney, lots of guys that week in, week out, you sort of rely on, and you think they're going to kind of have that consistent level of play. And for the Broncos, whatever reason, whether it's sickness or just a lack of focus, we did not quite see that in this particular game for the Chiefs against the Broncos. So let's dive into this one, the first one here. And you pointed this one out to me. Mahomes and Kelce have such a telepathic connection. This was a play where it just didn't quite sync up.
Yeah, I actually noticed this live, and you can see Kelce towards the end of the play, his body language. He kind of wonders, why didn't I get the ball? But this is actually a running back screen to the left, ends up getting blown up. The Broncos, run some sort of stunt with a linebacker right into the screen, just, unlucky. But part of this screen technique by the quarterback is to look off to the other side of the field, and you have time to throw a rhythm route or a quick route before you throw the screen. And you see Kelce here; he sees the blitz here, and he sits right in space, and he's like expecting the ball here, and he kind of can't believe the ball didn't come to him.
Yeah, we watch his reaction here. He kind of looks behind him like, what?
Yeah, was there somebody behind me? Why didn't he throw me the ball? Yeah.
And again, this is the stuff we hear from defensive coordinators every week. Like, this is the second, third play you can't guard with Kelce and Mahomes. This is what they did so well against the Chargers the previous week, and it's just a miss from those two guys. And it's not something we see very often because usually, like we said, those guys are on the same page.
Right, and just to reiterate again, it is a screen play, so the ball is the O line is blocking screen. It's not a drop back concept, but those guys. I have to believe that they have the freedom to be able to take this when given, whether it be, a run play, any sort of RPO, drop back, or a screen here that, hey, if they're going to give them this, go ahead and take it.
An interesting play there. Let's go ahead and get into the red zone early in the first half here, too, with the Chiefs. And we talked about Joe Thuney. I mean, he has been rock solid, deep star, basically, of the Chiefs' offensive line, has been for a couple years now. And this is a play you'd probably like to have back.
Yeah, so the D in there is lined up in the B gap at the snap, and he does engage Donovan Smith mostly. But what you'll see happen, it doesn't impact the play, the spacing of the play. We'll get to. There's no movement on that defensive end, who is supposed to get double teamed before one of them releases to the backside linebacker. And what it does is I think it has an impact on Rice's depth, and he's got to get a little bit deeper now to get away from the heels of the O-line. And what that does is it decreases the space between Hardman and Rice, and you have, I believe that's Randy Gregory, the DN, that's able to play, he's able to midpoint and play both. And once, Mahomes shovels that to Rice, he's able to redirect and trip him up.
So we talk about the details here. And again, this is kind of what we're talking about, how it's bunched up here. Rice is supposed to follow that hole there, but it's just not quite enough depth because Smith is getting pushed back and, again, not quite enough space there. But we'll watch this from the end zone view too. And then I do want to compare this to this play earlier in the season when it did work for the Chiefs. This is why we talk about these details, because these small things execution-wise, whether it's Joe Thuney helping out his teammate here to create a little more space or Rashee Rice pacing this a little bit too fast, it makes it so this play is a little bit muddied up.
Yeah, I think, all of the above. But as you said, it's multiple things that ends up muddying the picture, basically, and the details. It could be, a little bit of spacing, a little bit of timing, a little bit of movement. And we'll look at the other one here. You have to get movement on the front side of that play for it to be clean. At least enough to where whoever's running the shovel is able to, get the proper timing and the proper, not have to get too deep to where that DN could play both the edge player and the shovel player.
Yeah, so you see those guys work on a double team here. Tooney does a great job turning this guy inside. And then we also see McKinnon kind of pacing this more towards the middle, not so, full speed to the outside, able to take this. And this defender's really close, just like the last one was. But this is an instance where the Chiefs are able to get by it. And that's, again, why maybe some of those small details matter. Not quite executed right against the Broncos.
Yeah, you can tell, McKinnon has had hundreds of reps in that, whether it be game or practice. And obviously this is it's the first one I remember to Rice. I'm sure he's worked it in practice, and maybe he wasn't as patient with it. You get in a game and the heart rate gets a little elevated, and that changes things a little bit. So I expect to see him become better at this, because he's just such a versatile weapon that I'm sure he'll get used on this in the future as well.
Talk so much about execution. This is another one of those, Brett, where the Chiefs have the picture they want, just didn't quite execute the way they wanted to.
So this is a sprint draw, and you actually pointed this out to me as we were talking about how just the Chiefs' better players ended up making mistakes in crucial times that cost them here, and here we've got Joe Tooney highlighted. So this is a sprint draw. The front side of the line is going to block to the right, zone to the right to make it look like sprint out protection. And then the backside is going to lock. You see Donovan Smith, his job is to keep that guy in the C gap, push him up the field. Tooney's job is to keep him in the B gap. And then Jarrett McKinnon is going to lead on the most dangerous there. And the linebackers hopefully are taken care of with the flow of the sprint out, which they are here. So you got everything you want in the picture, except Mr. Reliable, one of the most consistent alignment in the league, just gets beat where he can't get beat.
Yeah, I know they say across his face is kind of the football term you coaches would use. And it's just not something you expect, because let's picture this. And then I want to pause it here right when Kadarius is about to get tackled. But if you look here, you got a blocker on a man, a blocker on a man, a blocker on a man, and everybody else flowing the other direction. You need one block. If you get one block, this is a touchdown, Chiefs.
Yeah, it's going to be a touchdown. Absolutely.
All right, last one let's go to, and this was a big mistake for the Chiefs, one of the biggest ones of the day, on a turnover and a red zone play where I want you to kind of explain this to folks, what's going on the bottom side, and potentially why this guy we're going to have highlighted here is a big part of this play, and maybe why the Chiefs should have gone a different direction.
So the Chiefs are going to run 1 and 2 on verticals here, and then they're going to run Rashee Rice on a 8-yardish out. And this is a really good call versus man coverage, because what you're doing is you're carrying out basically that side of the field with those two verticals, and your number 3 receiver there can win with speed on that out route. However, the Broncos are going to play cover 4 here, and they're going to take away everything to the trip side. And you've got that Mike highlighted there. And Mahomes' eyes, as he goes to the trip side, moves that Mike. He starts there pre-snap, and then he stays there because that's where Mahomes' eyes go. Right there, you can see him favor that trip side. But what that leaves open is that middle window for the dig. And instead of just a nice, calm reset that Mahomes is so good at, finding that backside route coming into the picture, he gets a little I don't know if antsy is the right word, maybe feels a little pressure from the left side, and he starts to move to the right. He misses the timing of that dig. And by the time he, can pull the trigger, that safety's gotten down in there, can impact the throw, and he holds the ball, and you get a strip sack.
Yeah, it just goes from ugly to uglier. And I know the all 22 film kind of zooms out here, but we also talk about trust so much. This is a route. If he gets back to the backside right there for Sky Moore, that's NFL open. I mean, that's if you're anticipating that throw and see the coverage well. And again, if Mahomes is how Mahomes usually is, that's NFL open, and you're able to hit that and be able to get some yardage there.
1,000%. I mean, that safety's sitting there, but that safety's 6.5 yards from being able to drive that route. And as you said, you're not going to get wide open in the NFL ever, if at all. So, and that's a play he usually makes. And again, circling back to kind of, what we saw looking at some of the different clips, is just, really, really good players not making plays that they're usually making.
Yeah. So going back to this, I mean, I sometimes try to talk about how the simplest explanation is probably the right one. It seemed like the Chiefs were just off on this one, and Mahomes obviously had the flu, so that could have been part of it. But I would expect a bounce back from the Chiefs here against the Dolphins this week, and for the rest of the season as well. I don't think all is lost, because they've had a great performance against the Chargers the week before. This was just one of those where Andy Reid, when he's talking about those little details, this is some of the stuff we're talking about where they have good looks or good things happening to them, and then just kind of execution problems. And that's really what piled up against the Broncos.
Yeah, they have a game like this every year, it seems. In 2021, I was, trying to figure out the last time that the Chiefs were held without a touchdown. And I think they played, at Tennessee. They were 3-4, got beat 27-3. That was a miserable day. You obviously had the loss to Indianapolis last year. As you said, it's the NFL. This is gonna happen one or two times a year, and they're just too good to not get it figured out. And I expect them to, be a lot better on Sunday.
That's gonna do it for the details this week. For Jesse, or for Brett, this is Jesse. Be sure to tune in for another episode next week.